we're not used to empty space. We are so inundated with stuff, with clutter, whether it's like physical material stuff, or it's social media, or it is your schedule and activities and things you could do. That's why what I do affects mental and emotional and relational health, because as you're letting go of things, you're realizing, oh, I've been holding on to this stuff because it's fulfilled some kind of need and filled some kind of void. And I actually have been using it to distract myself from the actual root problems in my life.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Life Inner Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On the Life Inner Show, we help people make more, work less, and live awesome, amazing, abundant lives that they do through creating lives and businesses they love. That was a mouthful, man. I am joined by my co-host, Polish Peter. What's up, brother?
So it sounds to me like your English is starting to perk up a little bit from.
Well, it sounds like I feel like my intro phrase needs some organization.
I think so too. I'm a little bit nervous about this episode because we're going to be talking about organizing, and I don't know if my background here is organized.
It's not. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I know the book might be crooked, and
those angles are totally
over
off.
Here.
Yeah, nothing. I'm not feeling any feng shui from your room right there.
What? How? What?
That's okay. You don't need to know.
Feng shui.
Yeah. Listen, man, we are talking with Christa Jones. So, Christa is a professional organizer, and dude, this is such an important topic because organizing, it's not just about the stuff. It's about opening bandwidth and space. And there's a huge importance to this, to our lives, to our businesses. And so we're going to talk about a lot of universal things that are applicable in multiple areas.
Yeah. And one of the coolest things that I love that she was talking about is that when she goes and helps people organize their spaces, their physical spaces, whether it's a kitchen or pantry or whatever, whole another world opens up. And and it is so impactful for people to actually go through that experience. That makes a huge difference for them. And it's a human psychological thing. She talks about being one of the cheapest therapists kind of thing. And I think that's totally true.
Yeah.
And I love this conversation.
It's an awesome episode, awesome conversation. Let's jump into it right now. Here's our interview with Christa Jones. Hey, Christa, what's up? Welcome to Life Inner Show.
Hey, Jason. So good to be here. I'm excited.
So Peter, I met Christa. So Keep, which is the software or the platform that we both use for sales and automation marketing. I met her at the Icon, which is their annual conference. They have a conference once per year. And I saw what she was doing. I'm like, this is so cool. I need to get her in Life Inner Show because not only, dude, I don't know if you know this, you can't tell by the bookshelf in the background, but I have an organizational problem. Like I think I need like a 12-step program for organization.
Is it really organized? Is that bookshelf really organized?
The bookshelf is, but that's about it.
Does not look like it's by alphabetical. What's that?
That it's just for show.
It is for
that's
show.
Right. See,
actually, this is just the green screen behind me. That's not really a bookshelf. So, Christa, tell us about, first of all, the name of your business is Rose City Organizing, correct?
Yeah, we're Rose City Professional Organizing, and we're based in Alberta, Canada.
Awesome. So tell me, how did you even get interested in this business, and what did you do before this? And walk us through the steps that happened until you got to where you are today.
My journey, I'll try to condense it because it was quite intensive. But I was a realtor in Fort McMurray for about 5 years, and then I had my first daughter and realized I just want to be home with my babies and focus on that. And so I had another child 19 months later. And then about a year later, I got divorced and had to, restart my whole life at 30.
Yeah.
So I ended up moving in with my parents in another town and started a job at a bank and did that for about a year. It was fine. It was stressful. And so I actually ended up going to work at an assembly factory, which built steel enclosures for construction and electrical. And it was really nice just to put my podcast in and just build things from start to finish, and totally suited my personality. But while I was doing that, I started listening to podcasts on side hustles and, how to take your passion and turn it into profit. And I was like, what could I do? What could I do? Because I'd been in business since I was 12 with my dad, helping him on entrepreneurial things. And I love sales and I love helping people and I love building businesses and coaching. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. And my next door neighbor one day was unloading boxes from her car into her garage. And I asked her what she was doing. She said her dad was moving into long-term care, unfortunately, and she needed to empty out his condo. And so she put a bunch of boxes in the garage and her brother took a bunch. And I said, if you need help going through this stuff to help determine what he wants to give away to family members, friends, that kind of thing, I can help you. And she said, oh, that's a really good idea. I'll let you know. I went to talk to my mom the next weekend and told her about that. She's like, oh, you could totally help people with their clutter. And I went, yeah, I could be a clutter coach. And so
Clutter
I
coach.
Googled it, and the Professional Organizers of Canada website came up. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a thing. I started to remember like Marie Kondo, and I looked to see if I needed like a license and a training program, because as a realtor, you know, there's lots of overhead with that. And so I'm like, I want to make money. I don't want to spend a bunch of money to get into business. Nope. I could just call myself a professional organizer, get some insurance and a business license. So I did that. I put a Facebook page up, super rudimentary, like a headshot from 10 years ago. I basically like put it on all the mommy groups and Facebook like community groups and stuff that I could find. And within 5 minutes, I had a client asking me to come to her storage room.
Wow.
And she was planning on listing the home. Once we did 4 hours in the storage room, she went, I don't need a bigger house. I just need less stuff. And I went, this is going to change lives. Like, this is not just about the stuff. This is people making decisions and letting go of things that are mental, emotional. Like, it's just so deep. And that's what I want. I wanted to coach people to change their lives. And yeah, doing decluttering and organizing actually does that. It's pretty
Wow.
So if you haven't already, if someone hasn't already trademarked the clutter coach, you need to get that, because that's
Yeah,
amazing.
no kidding. That's cool. I
Wow.
like that.
That's awesome. And so, it's that kind of funny. Like when you tell me, when you started out, when you were doing the assembly line stuff, it's almost like it's very structured and it's organized. Like, so it's very funny how the similarities there kind of like, parlayed into your business now. And so tell me, like, you get these first few clients, and then like, what happens? Like, how did you grow so quickly?
My babysitter's mother, the babysitter was watching my children. They're homeschooled, and so she's homeschooled as well. And my babysitter's mother asked, well, why do you need my daughter to babysit? What are you up to? And I was like, well, I'm going to organize and declutter this lady's storage room. She's like, oh my God, could you do my whole house? I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And so that was my first big whole home package, was my second client ever. And it was a couple $1,000s. So it honestly was just, at that point, I had all of the before and afters from every space in a home, and I could post them on Facebook, like buy and sell groups and community groups and mommy groups. And people were just messaging me like, hey, can you do garages? Hey, can you do basements? Hey, can you do like farm sheds? And I'm like, I can do anything. And yeah, it just steamrolled. I honestly just advertised everywhere on Facebook for free, just by posting before and afters, and it worked. Then about a year and a half later, I started advertising on Google, like Google paid ads. Oh boy, I should have been doing that from the beginning.
Oh, just nuts, huh?
And then, yeah, I brought on team members because they saw I was in business and they were interested in getting into business. And when I told them how much work it is to do a business, they said, can I just work for you? That's how I got my contractors, and they're amazing. They are so good with our clients. Anyways, I could go on and on about them, but yeah, that's how it steamrolled in like 3.5 years. We're 3.5 years in. I hit 6 figures at the end of last year, and it's pretty friggin' awesome this year.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That is amazing. So tell me, like, first of all, like, you said something there that really struck me earlier, is like, people have clutter, and and you kind of alluded to this, that it's kind of a sign of other stuff going on. Like, it's emotional, it's mental. Like, is that part of the process as well? As like, tell us about that and unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I always tell clients we're the cheapest therapist you'll ever hire. We're not cheap, but we are cheaper than a therapist. That's for sure. And it's really interesting how once we start going into bins or boxes or even just closets and start unpacking these physical items that have memories attached to them, reasons that they were purchased, reasons that they're not being used, reasons that they're being held onto even though they're not being used, these people start to share with us some pretty intense stories, emotional stuff, a lot of like emotional baggage, right? That's tied to this physical stuff. And it's just us asking the questions, listening, leaving space for them to talk about it and process through that verbally, then they just feel like this massive weight is lifted off them. And they're like, I can now understand why, and I'm ready to let go. And it's just like with a 6-hour session, you walk in and this person is so overwhelmed and stressed and anxious and crying and embarrassed to have you in there. And then 6 hours later, they're crying with joy and hugging you and happy and smiling, like you become a totally different person. And it's just because they're allowed and given the space and attention to be able to express themselves about some deeper things that are tied to the physical stuff. But it is a definite connection and a huge cycle.
So would you say that most people keep stuff for emotional reasons?
Oh yeah, it's all tied to some kind of an emotion.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether it's like a fear of losing someone or something that's attached to that memory, like your money, you spent money on that item and you think, well, if I give away this item, then I've lost that money, which if you think about it, you've already spent the money. So it's sunk cost, right? You're just holding on to that thing because you think it like has that value, but it's actually, if it's stressing you out, like what's the point of holding on to it? If someone special gave you something and then I'm standing there going, do you use it? And you're like, no. I'm like, well, let's donate it to somebody who will use it. And they're like, oh, but my aunt gave me that and she's really special to me. And I'm like, if we donate this item, will your aunt still be special to you and love you? Oh yeah. So let's take a picture of the item. You can remember that she gave it to you, but we don't have to hold on to the thing. It's just asking the right questions and getting them to process those feelings. And yeah, there's a lot of reasons why.
I used to have, so I have this, and it's probably, I'm guessing there's categories of things that people typically like hold on to. So like, for instance, it took me a while to let go of, for a while I was building houses and I had everything from like gutters in my garage to like my wife's like, you haven't built a house in like 3 years. Like why you keep, and I'm like, but what if I do? Like, and I'm finally, I'm like,
need a gutter at some point.
What if there's a hole in my gutter? Like I have a gutter, I can go up on the roof and fix it. And she's like, you are ridiculous. And I finally got rid of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Like, it's crazy how I was holding on to it like that. And she's given me, some grief about my tools. And I'm like, no, we're not getting rid of the tools. Like that's a no. But some of these other things, I'm like, yes, okay, fair enough. But there is an emotional connection to this stuff. So how do you help people through that? Like, and understand, and is this, are they usually right there with you as you're going through this? I'm guessing
99% of the time we work alongside the client because our goal is to teach the skill and help them understand like why we're doing it, give them the right questions to ask themselves, and then empower them to do it without us. So my goal is to never have to go back to their house. My goal is to make it so that they can do this themselves. And that is the part of coaching, right? If you're a successful coach, then eventually your student doesn't need you anymore. So I think there's one of these things that you said which was I want to highlight, is that you had an intention for that thing. It was like, if I need it, then I can use it. I have intentions to use it when I need it. We hear that all the time, right? Our clients are always saying, oh, I had a plan for this. This is what I want to do with this. And sometimes you have to let go of other things in order to make space and time in your life and give yourself bandwidth and energy to be able to do that intended task or project. We see it all the time. And sometimes you have to let go of that actual thing to realize, oh, I'm still a great construction, house builder. I still am a great crafter, or I still have this talent or this skill. Even if I let go of these items, these tools of the skill or the trade, and I'm not losing that part of myself by getting rid of this thing. And I think that's really important for people to recognize. And we have Walmarts and Home Depots that, well, if you can replace it for in like 20 minutes for under $20, like just let go and give yourself some space.
And that's, like I can't tell you how many boxes of screws, random screws and nails and all these ridiculous.
Well, I know exactly what your garage looks like. I've seen many of them.
I'm feeling judged.
You opened up the Pandora's box there, Vojo.
I'm not judging. I'm just like, let me at it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're a pro. So tell me, what are some of those questions?
She's rubbing her hands.
She's like, we got a good one here. So what are some of the questions that people can ask themselves about items that they're not sure about?
It can depend what space you're working in. But ultimately the basics are, okay, when did I use this item last? And when you're saying that out loud, it's like, okay, I haven't used it in 2 years. Okay, why haven't I used it in 2 years? Okay, because of COVID, I didn't use my fancy dresses in 2 years. That doesn't mean I'm gonna go and throw them all out. Like tomorrow night, I get to go out to a gala. I'm using my fancy dress, right? But if you know that you're not going to use it again for whatever reason, you've lost interest in that hobby, you don't like the way that it works for you, it doesn't work right, and it bothers you every time you use it, or maybe you're not wearing it because it just doesn't look good on your body, you don't feel confident in it, it doesn't fit you right anymore. There's just those kinds of questions of, when did I last use this? Will I ever use this again? Why haven't I used it? And then, is there somebody else out there who would enjoy this and use it and get more value out of it than I am? And can I bless them with that and like make some space in my home and give myself some bandwidth for other things?
See, Vojo, you don't need to throw out your fancy dresses.
You don't need to get rid of all your tools either.
Right. Yeah, just ignore anything he says. He's here for he's like the peanut gallery. So here's a question I have for you then. So tell me about the emotional things that happen when you let go. And so for instance, you challenge them and you ask them, encourage them with some questions, and then they get rid of this stuff. And then you mentioned it, like you kind of make room for like the next thing or more bandwidth for stuff. What does that look like? And do you feel like that people have a tendency to, like, they're so used to being cluttered that they just clutter it up again because they're so used to being in this pattern of having clutter around them?
Yeah, Peter's nodding about that one, and so he resonates with that. But I think it's because we're not used to empty space. Our society and the way that we've come in the last, even just 20 years, we are so inundated with stuff, with clutter, whether it's like physical material stuff, or it's social media and like learning and online stuff, or it is your schedule and activities and things you could do with your time. Those are all forms of clutter, and we're not used to empty space, whether it's an empty cabinet or an empty shelf or an empty closet or an empty day on our calendar or even an empty hour. We're not used to that. It makes us feel uncomfortable. We don't know how to just sit and be alone or be bored.
Yeah.
And like become uncomfortable for people, and that's why meditation and those sorts of things are becoming a very, like, I don't want to say a fad, but more and more people are jumping on it because we don't know how to do it. We've lost that skill. And I mean, I look at my kids, they don't know how to be bored. They're like, well, what do I do? Give me your phone, give me the tab. I'm like, no, be bored. Go find something else to entertain yourself. I don't know. Just sit there and like look at the wall. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I find that hard to do too. So
ditto.
Yeah, people want to fill space because it makes them feel productive, it makes them feel comfortable, helps them avoid or distract them from like their thoughts and things they need to deal with in their life. And I think that's why what I do affects mental and emotional and relational health, because as you're letting go of things, you're realizing, oh, I've been holding on to this stuff because it's fulfilled some kind of need and filled some kind of void, and I actually have been using it to distract myself from the actual root problems in my life, and now I need to talk about those things with this complete stranger and tell her all of my crazy stories, and then I feel so much better. And it's like, interesting, huh? The physical letting go helps you like emotionally let go. So
that's I find that fascinating. And I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Like, it's like, and maybe some of it is like the fear of not having things, or maybe you grew up at a point where you didn't have anything, and so you hold on to everything, or there's so many root reasons for this that that probably show up, I'm guessing. How do you see this playing out? I also feel like, being organized physically in a structured physical place also is probably correlated with your thinking, with like how organized are you in business, and how focused are you in getting things done? Do you see any relationship to that?
Oh yeah, it's huge. I've done a number of podcast episodes on how to organize your business, and how to make sure you're decluttering and simplifying so that what you are spending time and energy and focus on is the priority, right? And that's what we talk about a lot with our clients is what are your priorities in life? What does your family enjoy doing? What gives you joy and excitement? Let's get rid of some of this other stuff that doesn't match those priorities and those activities so that you have more space and time and energy and focus to do the things that you actually really enjoy and are really benefiting you in your life. And that's the same with business. There's so much clutter in business. There's so many things you could do, so many like paths you could take, so many tools you could use, so many things you can learn and apply. And it's just like so overwhelming that we need to strip it down. And like that saying, like, keep it simple, stupid, is just like that. You have to do that in business a lot of the times because we're so inundated with all these options. And having a simplified, decluttered business is going to help you stay organized and stay focused and stay productive and stay profitable because you've stripped away all of that clutter that doesn't really matter and doesn't really attribute to success and profit.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my question going to be, so how you determine, how you keep it simple, how you know, like, okay, I want to get this, not this. I want to keep this, not this. Because think about it, even like in real estate, you mentioned, there is like gazillion training courses on real estate on how to do this. So I need this, I need to learn this, I need to this. How you determine that then?
Yeah, I think it's just getting really in tune with your intuition and who you are. And I think that's part of the problem is that people are trying to find their identity in stuff and their house and their things and their car. And they're trying to find their identity in the activities that they do and how they help their community and what sports their kids are in. And where they volunteer, and then they're trying to find their identity in their business and how successful they are and all the things they can do, awards they can get, or the money they can make. And so there's an identity issue there where they don't really know who they are, what they enjoy, what really lights them up. And again, with the like space and under time to really look inwards and recognize, okay, I just need to feel this way, and this is the one thing that I really want out of my life. And then that gives you that laser focus, be able to choose the things that contribute to, and give you the right path. So I think it has a lot to do with internal awareness and self-identity, and knowing what you want and knowing what you enjoy so that you can make decisions to add to that. So intuition is huge. And I think a lot of people have become detached from that. They don't tune into themselves. They look externally for like coaches and trainers and teachers and leaders to tell them what to learn and what to do. It's like, well, you actually don't need all of those people to tell you what to do. You just have to take a couple minutes, sit down, ask yourself some key questions, write down what your passions and your dreams and your strengths are, and go, okay, I can do this. And it's not actually that complicated. And like pick one or two things that feed those strengths and feed those passions and just stay on that path. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's just too
So
much.
Yeah, I think I love that because I mean, that was a brilliant answer, because when you get down to your identity, who you really are, it starts to define really what this life is about for you and what you want to accomplish and all those kinds of things. The other aspect I think that happens a lot in this particular conversation is the whole entire thing about FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I struggle with that because I see all these amazing things that people are doing with their businesses. And I go, oh, I could do that. And it's true. I really could do anything I want. Everybody can do anything they want and put their mind to. There are so many resources now that we can access and learn from, and people who are so smart and doing incredible things we can be coached by, that we could achieve anything thanks to the internet. That's true. It is that fear of like, what am I missing? Could this add value to my life? Could this make me better at what I do? Could this be the next best thing for me? But I think it's important to look at it and go, if I don't even have time or energy or bandwidth to do those things, maybe I actually need to strip some crap out of my life. Because there's probably just too much clutter. And I think adding more and more to your schedule and to your business and to your personal self, it actually can detract away from what's really important, which is your personal health, your self-care, your family, the relationships with your kids, your partner, your friends. I mean, at the end of the day, when we're laying on our deathbed, we're not going to wish we read more books and took more courses. We're going to wish we spent more time with our people.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking too, is like, as the more organized and simplified your life is, now you're in a better position to make those decisions to attend or open up the bandwidth to investigate something a little bit more thoroughly. So there's something I got to ask about, like, this is kind of tying between business and physical organization. And this is something that I'm asking for, like, for myself, because this is something I struggle with, is information. Like, so for instance, I have a file cabinet of all of these, like, basically sales letters, right, from different gurus. And I'm like, oh, this is like my swipe file. I'll need this. I should read this and become better at this. Or, I have all these files of, like, oh, here's some great, business publication that I could use someday. And I'm holding on to it. I haven't looked at it in 10 years, but I still am like, someday I might. And like, and the someday I might need it rationale is something that is like, I hold on to. And so, like, but I'm also wondering if this is like, having one file isn't a big deal necessarily, but I'm wondering if this is showing up in different parts of my life as well that I'm not aware of. When it comes to something like that, for instance, like, would you just say, just keep it, it's not a big deal? Or just say, hey, there's something else, you should, do something else with it or take some other action?
Yeah. So in the case that you've been holding on to it for 10 years, I would definitely encourage you to let it go. And a big reason for that is we have just at our fingertips, whatever we need something, it's like a quick search, right? And I can pull it up. And also in 10 years, something might have changed, like things evolve, right? And we change, we evolve, our approach evolves, the way we think is different. And I'm kind of understanding where you're coming from in regards to, like, taking information from other people and gurus and whatever and being like, oh, I could apply this. But what ends up happening is I create my own, because we're creative beings, right? And so I create my own way of doing things. I've been influenced by some people, or I've, like, done a quick glance at that, and maybe I've applied some of it, but I actually end up creating my own style and method, and it works for me, and it's my signature thing, and that's what resonates with my clients. And so there's some good to keeping other people's information and applying it to how we do things, but at the end of the day, like, you are you, and you have something really unique and valuable to offer the world. And so why try to recreate what other people have done? Like, maybe just create your own thing, and it'll be
She's telling you to get rid of it very
That's
politely.
what I'm hearing. Like, this is, I just, yeah.
Let it go.
Let it go.
That's a theme song for right.
But no, I do tell clients, if you have the space to keep it, and it is really special to you, and it is adding value to your life, and it is useful or whatever, then let's hold on to it. But let's find something else that maybe isn't as useful or special or, important, and let's part with that thing. So then you feel better about keeping this other thing.
Well, and I guess there's probably there you could look at it as like a hierarchy. Like, hey, let's get rid of the low hanging fruit first that we definitely can look at, and then we'll work on the harder stuff as you make progress.
It weighs on you a lot more than you think. And that's why when you decluttered your gutters, you were like, oh, I feel so much better. And that is a true indicator that it was weighing on your mind and your soul more than you recognize. And as soon as it was gone, you felt that freedom. And it's just, you recognize it right away.
So, Bojo, did you use the same approach when it comes to getting rid of your hair?
No, yeah. Dude, actually, I do love shaving my head and seeing it in the sink and like, yes, it's gone, peace. Then I have to make it, it's a big mess. But like, aside from that, are there other areas, like, what are the most common areas of life or someone's house, you think? Are there places you're like, oh my gosh, this is some places you need to look at?
I really like to prioritize the kitchen and the pantry. It's the center of the home. And a lot of people don't recognize how stressful it is when it's not functioning well. and it's cluttered with a lot of things and things don't have a home. You're in there all the time. You use it daily, multiple times a day, and it affects, meal planning, grocery shopping, meal prep, and it affects enjoying time with your family, being able to sit down and enjoy the meal, and then cleaning up. And like, there's just so much to do with the kitchen and the pantry that I always say to people, like, this is the heart of the home for a reason, and it's affecting your heart if it's not functioning well. So that, and then also storage spaces. Like, I'm a nerd and a geek when it comes to garages and like basements and storage rooms, because there's just something about having a place where where everything is, and you can go there and find it in a minute or put it away really easily, and it just helps the rest of your home free up space because you can put it in the storage room or the garage where it belongs. That's really beneficial.
Do you now? I'm guessing the answer is no to this, but I can't help it when you're saying knowing where everything is. The immediate thing that popped into my head was the disorganization, like in my, for instance, an external hard drive I have where I have years worth of like files in there and pictures. And I'm like, oh my, it's like, gives me anxiety to think about going in there organizing. Do you do any of that? And do you have any suggestions for that? Or is that totally outside?
For myself, yes. I haven't had to help clients with it yet. I did help my boyfriend's mom with all her photos, but it was all digital, and it was so fun to just make the folders of the year and then the month, and then find everything and put it where it belonged and get rid of the duplicates. And yeah, it was a lot of fun working with her. And I am a nerd for my digital clutter. I am going through my folders and my email and my external and my photos to like get rid of stuff that just,
well, because like that's another huge organizational nightmare for people too. I'm wondering if someday you might expand into the
more and
digital
more
world
now. Yeah, because a lot of stuff is moving digital, like paperless bills, and now all the magazines are digital and everything's coming to email, and with photos, that's huge. And so it is definitely leaning and trending in that direction. There's a lot of people that do that kind of thing as well in my industry. It's just,
there are. Okay. Gotcha.
So I have a question for you, because you've been doing this for a while. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've got out of your journey in this whole decluttering sphere?
Oh man. I think the biggest one is that the hardest part is asking for help. Our clients are really embarrassed to show me the space, even just through a Zoom assessment. And they'll say, I've been waiting for years to reach out to you, and I'm finally like ready, and I'm really nervous. And I'm like, it's totally normal. And this is the hardest part. Like, making decisions about your stuff, what to let go of and what to keep, is difficult. But when you have someone there with you to work through the process, it's a lot easier. When you're struggling on your own without any help, and you feel like it's all on you and you're a failure and you're beating yourself up because you just can't do it. Why haven't I done this? I should be able to handle this by myself. It is really hard to ask for help, especially when you don't even want to show your space to anybody because you're embarrassed or ashamed. And so as soon as I get that, Calendly booking, I'm like really excited, because this person is like being really brave and courageous to ask a complete stranger to look around. And so once we get on the Zoom, it is like, you could tell they're freaking out. And it's always, I haven't cleaned, excuse the mess, it's the worst you ever seen. And I'm like, oh honey, like, no. I want to see it, and I can see the potential, and I'm excited about it, and my team is excited about it, not just because we love to declutter and organize the space, but because we want to help you so you don't have to do this alone anymore. And we want to relieve this burden for you and give you an amazing home and an amazing life. And they just, that asking for help is the hardest part. And that's in anything. You could apply that to business, you could apply that to personal life, but asking for help really is the hardest part. Once you do it, then you're like, okay, now I have help. Oh, they just feel relieved. Even once we book the session, then they're like, oh, I went and decluttered this and I donated that. And I'm like, you did it without us. That's awesome. So it's just, it's relief to ask for help and know it's coming.
Well, Joe, she's not passionate about this at all.
No, I can tell, dude. This is what makes her successful, no doubt. Yeah. Because she's legitimately helping people, and she sees the purpose in it and the impact she's making on lives. So Christa, tell us. I know we're just about out of time here. Tell us, like, first of all, how do people find out more about what you're doing? And do you guys only work locally? Because I know we're probably getting a bunch of people like, oh, I want Christa to come out to my house, and it's gonna be like,
I would love to travel to your home. But we do virtual organizing and decluttering over Zoom.
Oh. Wow.
That's something that I started doing when COVID shut me down for, those months. And we were doing virtual decluttering parties with multiple people on if they were willing to show their space to the other ladies. And we would have some wine, put on some music, and they would declutter for an hour or two. And I actually helped a bachelor do his entire bachelor pad in like 3 hours over Zoom. It was really fun. He was just
Oh
running
man.
around like
So you
crazy.
help with dating too? You help with dating? Man.
Probably help you with that, yes.
There's no help for Peter. It's all over for him.
Well, I'm already married, so I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
why
need
it's
to-
over.
Let's not go there.
It's a modern world.
So we need to know, how do people get in touch with you? How do they find out more about your company?
So my website is rosecityprofessionalorganizing.com. And there's, all of our services are listed on there, including the virtual organizing and the DIY plan. So you could actually get a written workbook, a typed up workbook of a plan for your space. And it's all customized for you and the layout and everything. And you can follow us on Instagram, of course, at Rose City Organizing. And that's where you'll see all our before and afters and some tips and motivation. It's a great place to just follow along. If you are of the female identifying gender, then you can join us at the in our Facebook group. It's the Uncluttered Confident Woman on Facebook. And that's where, we run our spring declutter and organize challenge, our virtual decluttering parties, and just I give you tips, and I'm accessible in there. So you kind of get free access to me.
That is awesome.
But yeah, those are the best places to find us and me. And I'm on LinkedIn, of course, Rose City Professional Organizing.
Well, listen, Christa, thank you so much for being on the show, because listen, this has been an amazing episode, because this is such an important thing that I think way too many people don't fully acknowledge or understand or consciously know the impact of the feeling that you get for being organized, and the increase in productivity and efficiency and effectiveness that can come when your headspace and your bandwidth is there. So this is crucially important. It's not just a clean space. It's all of the other things that are resulting in that.
Definitely. And when we're talking to business owners, like if you want to be more efficient and productive and save time and energy, and you want to be more profitable, being simplified and organized is it's critical.
Do you also help businesses become organized too, or is it pretty much not?
I have been doing business coaching the last 7 months here, because I've noticed that there's a lot of people who are passionate and know what to do in their the actual thing. But there's a lot with business that needs to be organized and figured out and sorted and planned. And so, yeah, I do help business owners get some structure. And some people just need that step-by-step, okay, now we're doing this homework this week, and then we're doing this, and they just need that guidance and direction and structure, because organization is a learned skill. And so as we do it over those, 6-7 months, it starts to become more of a habit for them. But yeah, you're retraining your brain and you're learning. And so I do help, business owners I do coach them and help them with all the things that are needed to not just be organized and run the business, but anything, if you need help with tech or sales or marketing I can.
Awesome. So fantastic. Well, maybe you'll have some people reaching out for
It's
that
on
as
my
well.
website too. If you go to
Perfect.
office and business organization on the website, then you can apply to work with me in that.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for being on the show, Christa.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
Dude, that was a great conversation, man. Dude, I legitimately have an organizational issue, man. I hold on to stuff I do. I'm looking around my office right now. I asked her about the paperwork. Dude, I have sales letters and stuff from gurus, and I'm like, oh, I need to read this and get better at it. And
I know.
Been sitting there, I haven't looked at it, man. Yeah, same here, man. And so that's why, organization is so important. And she talked about this, how there's always an emotional reason behind it. And it's almost, I kind of feel like it's a manifestation, an outward manifestation of how we think, our beliefs and our thoughts organized, or are they all over the place? Is it squirrels jumping around in our head, or is it smooth and linear and efficient? So I think, as we clean up our external life, our internal life becomes more organized too.
Yeah, I'm a little worried for my wife to hear this podcast episode.
I know, dude. We have to. This one might not make it out, right? Our wives hear it, we're done.
No, but listen, one of the coolest things that I've gotten out of this particular episode is whether it's organized or disorganized space or whatever you look at it, it's people and it's stories. We're walking around stories and what we're dealing with and our past and our, connections to different things. And when you start looking from that, I think one of the reasons why she's so successful is what she does is I don't think she brings any judgment into the space, right? When she's talking with these people. And notice what she mentioned in few of the instances is the reasons why someone keeps something is not because it's, a piece of paper or whatever. There is something behind that. Yeah. Right. And when you start to understand that, and you start to understand that when it comes to people and you start looking at that, all of a sudden you see the person in a completely different light.
Yeah. Dude, well, you know what? It's interesting you said that is like, I didn't think about that during the interview, but you're totally right. Like, we're seeing parts of people's lives all around them, and they keep them around them, and it tells a story of their life. And so she's obviously really good at this, where she makes people feel really comfortable, and she, doesn't judge. And she really kind of like just gives people the permission to kind of think through and process why they have this, and encourages them to think through that so that they can release it. We talked about, she mentioned a couple of times having bandwidth in your life, in your thoughts and in your emotions. And so getting rid of that stuff that no longer serves us is a big part of it. And I mean, it's funny, but there's a real correlate here between like letting go of our past and the things that, maybe either it was a bad experience for us or a good experience for us, like, but kind of like just moving forward,
Right. I mean, one of the things that I just recently actually did to the Inner Circle call to life in our community about putting past in the past where it belongs.
Yeah.
And I think this is a big part of it, because when you do that, when you finally put your past in the past where it belongs, you have a whole new future that you can move towards, right? You have this space she talked about, and peace of mind and calm and just be able to go and move forward. And when you have those things that are a lot of times manifesting in your life in a physical form, then you have a hard time moving forward in life. And I think that's true for a lot of people. So I love that episode. I think it was really cool. One of the things she mentioned after we, cut the recording, or stopped recording, is brain aspect, that it has to do with the brain. And I truly believe that as well. So we start learning a lot, people, and we start learning about how we operate in life, which once you know yourself, think about it. One of the things she said too is the identity. And I truly believe that it comes down to the identity, because when you know your identity, know yourself, truly know yourself, all of that stuff starts to go away a little bit, because you don't start looking for the other aspects out of your life. Okay, I need this or this or this or this, because it's external. Whereas, if you look at the identity, if you think about it, if it's an internal identity, how much of the external I need? Think about monks. Just popped into my head, right? Monks. Talk about simplicity in life. I mean, I don't think you get much more simplistic than what monks are doing. So great episode, I think.
Yeah, dude, it really was. And I just can't help but keep reflecting on all the metaphors and analogies that are available to us when we think about what organization really means, and the different ways it shows up in our life for our productivity, our peacefulness, our headspace. All these things are affected by it. And so I thought it was an awesome episode. Listen, if you guys thought this was an awesome episode, leave us a review, leave us a rating, tell somebody about it. Do something with it, of course, more than anything else. Like that, at the end of every episode, we're telling you to share it and to read this review, and those are important. But at the end of the day, listen, we do this so that you do something with this information. This isn't, it's for Peter's bad jokes and all that kind of stuff, but it's so that you do something with it, right?
Jason, let it go. These are good jokes. Let it go. But listen, out of this episode, do one thing out of your life. Declutter one thing.
Organize one little area of your life.
One little thing.
And if if you pick your kitchen, like she said, that's the kind of how she looks at the center piece of your house. Pick one cabinet or one drawer. All right. Just do one small thing. And dude, I don't know about you, but like when I declutter, like I start with one area And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm like motivated. I get like steam. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And I'm on to the next thing. And so let that moment, and that's what life is too, right? You start off with one small step, right? And so start with one small area, declutter. If you need some help, reach out to Christa. She's got you taken care of, and do something. And we can't wait to see you next week, everybody. Take care.